identity, race, identity, what is normal. That's a great idea. Meeting people, situations, flirting. That's nice. Woke, very nice. Woke and cancer culture, minority versus majority. This is also so very interesting. Abuse in relationships. That's quite interesting. I hadn't thought of that. Power politics, cultural vocabulary, double entendres. Everything is risky, yeah. Um, Cultural vocabulary also, yeah, that's very interesting. Good. All right, thank you very much. And I can see that there have been even more comments here, or I might be wrong. Is reverse racism a thing? That's so interesting. Um, I agree about using it with staff because that's again always that's my my self-reflection. Do I have the skills to introduce this material? Am I helping the students develop their intercultural competence, or am I making it even more difficult? Or do I create some kind of negation, for example? So those are very interesting suggestions that I can say here. Very nice. Good. And let me again go finally back to my presentation, which was like here, I hope. Yes. All right. So, okay. And a few things. I mean, I will share with you my ideas. Where is my cursor again? Okay, I will share some of the ideas on how I use this material with my students. Oh, I had the link here as well. Okay, so for Phil 1, I have this discussion with students about race. So why is race such an important part of our identity? Because it's not the only identity that we have, right? It's not the only important part of our identity. For some people, it may not be the most important as well. Stereotyping, and of course, we had this comparison between British and other nationality stereotyping, especially with my Chinese students, because I've been teaching Chinese students for the last few years, mainly at least. We tried to work around stereotyping, where stereotypes come from, if any of them are true or not. And of course, for the first video, snowflake and how this is used for culture. For the white and Chinese, we had all this discussion about what do we mean the most powerful race on earth. So minorities, majorities, implied meaning. I try to work a lot with implied meaning and try to, again, to raise their criticality. Alien and predator, so those were words that we had to kind of compare with students. The discussion about the future and the future of races, if you like, and racial dynamic. For the Chinese stereotypes, again, the racial dynamic. My mother is normal. That was an interesting discussion with students. Why would white people consider that my mother is normal, is probably white? So these unconscious biases come to play again. And of course, the other stereotypes. And with some groups, I also created some group work, trying to also, try and take it from the other side, from their own perception of what stereotypes they've heard about their own cultures, which of them they consider to be true, which of them they consider to be false, etc. So this is the type of material I create with my students, and this is how I more or less use. I wanted just to share with you very quickly reactions and comments from students. So as I said, I had the reaction of quite many students saying that shame on him, he shouldn't have he had no right to treat this white lady this way, etc. And then we kind of discussed what it means to be, overwhelmed with feeling that you have always been biased against, and how behaviors change. Or, for example, the comment that his family made, "You're doing great, my kid," right? This meant so much. The new form of racism that many students have raised, my Chinese, I mean, students, are, because of COVID-19, that anyone being Chinese or looking Chinese, they are now considered, go away, leave our country. Many students, I can tell you, even to this minute, many students complain about racism they face because they are Chinese or Chinese looking. And we had again this discussion about other nationalities that look like Chinese and are considered just Chinese for British people. I had some interesting reactions, and this comment actually, what is so funny, I don't like people laughing about my culture, it's offensive. I had this reaction from two Chinese students, from the Phil Wang video about, my grandfather was a dragon and stuff. For this part of the video, they were kind of upset. And to be honest, just because of that comment, what I did is that the next week I showed them the Luis Ogola video, and they burst out laughing. So then the comment was, "Oh, Christina, you're so right. What offended me in Phil Wang's video made me laugh in Loiso's, right?" And I think these are those little moments where I hope we kind of build up a little bit something. Students confessing, "Oh, I just now realize I've been racist. I've learned that language choices can be racist or offensive. You are Chinese, you are yellow, you are brown," all of those things that students themselves could use. So, this awareness for me is quite a success. So I would only consider this a success, having students kind of empathize, acknowledge their own behavior, some self-awareness, etc. And I have my references here. And now just a little comment. This highlighted reference here, the Nana's book, this was not used for my slides today, but last time we had a request as to whether we would recommend a good book about intercultural communication and intercultural competence. I think this is one of the best books to go for because it is quite simple, but it also has more or less everything. And I just want to thank you very much. I have created a small feedback form if any of you would like to give me your feedback. And of course, I'm open to any questions you may have. I didn't get the chance to check the chat. Sorry for that.
I just want to say that I found that really, really interesting. I hadn't thought about using kind of comedy clips in lessons before, but when I saw them on the screen, yeah, I got loads of ideas, and seeing all the other ideas in the Padlet and seeing what you had done with them. It's not a question, but yeah, it was a really interesting presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Faith. Thanks a lot.
One of the things that I thought could be another point, I didn't put it on the Padlet, it just came to me, was the idea of the captive audience. Because what I was thinking with comedy is that comedians are able to address things that are quite, controversial, or in other contexts, people wouldn't let them finish. People wouldn't allow them the time to make their point. But with comedy, there's a contract, if you like, or an agreement, let's say, not a real contract, but an agreement that the audience, you do get hecklers, actually, there are interruptions, but generally the unsigned agreement is that the audience is there to listen, and their reward is the joke, is the humor, so I thought that could be an interesting one, because I was thinking how there's a lot of people complain that that in our current sort of discourse, if you like, our social discourse, there's not enough. There's not people are not really given a chance to develop their argument, or people don't listen, essentially, basically, very well before reacting. So I thought that could be an interesting take, is like this idea of the, you know, the unwritten contract to listen up to the point, and what you get out of it and what can be expressed could be one to do.
Yeah.
Although I must admit, as I said earlier, I think the problem for me for stand-up comedy is although a lot of people these days are more used to swearing, most comedians do it now, even the mainstream comedians, and it is I don't know how you deal with it, actually. I mean, what do you give a disclaimer at the beginning, or
Yes, very
right,
straightforward disclaimer at the very beginning that please don't get it personally. This is how people speak in everyday life. So if you don't like it, try to please ignore it. This is not the reason we are doing this today. This is not the focus of the listening, but you know, and if I feel that my audience might be a bit more sensitive, I will try as much as possible, and if and when possible, to you know, select the bits and pieces that will, you know, nicely and easily avoid as much swearing as possible.
do you get any embarrassing, very difficult, like, questions like what is you know, what is a wanker? You know?
Actually, I can tell you that even the weakest of my students know all of these words already. But to come to your comment about, you know, storytelling, let's put it this way, about sharing experiences, that is, with stand-up comedians, it is a fact that one of the reasons why I ended up using stand-up comedy on top of everything else I shared earlier is, I don't know if you're familiar with the story circles that UNESCO promote to foster intercultural competence. So UNESCO and Darla Derdorf have promoted a scheme by which groups of people have their training, and the training in itself is that people from different backgrounds share deep personal stories that relate one way or another to cultural difference, so that then there is some form of understanding. And there is a very, very interesting booklet with all the details on how this can be done by UNESCO. And, you know, when I started thinking about the stand-up comedy thing, this is what came to mind, that, okay, unfortunately, I can't have storytelling with my students. I can't create story circles. It would be so time consuming, but we can have people who have been willing to share their own personal experience, and we can use their, you know, their stories. So I kind of tried to imitate that.